You're at a standstill. It's not a temporary roadblock. It feels like a permanent, immovable brick wall. It's the kind of stuck where you've exhausted every possible solution, every complaint, and every ounce of your emotional energy. You've replayed the scenario 100 times in your head, each time ending with the same conclusion. This isn't your fault. Your boss is unreasonable. Your ex-partner was toxic. The economy is terrible. Your friends aren't supportive. The world, it seems, is a series of unfortunate events happening to you. We've all been there. It's that heavy, suffocating feeling that life is a river of bad luck, and you're just a tiny leaf being tossed and turned by a current you can't control. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's a mindset. It's what psychologists call the victim mindset, and it's a trap that so many of us fall into without even realizing it. The language of this mindset is always the same. They did this to me. I can't catch a break. There's nothing I can do. It's a passive state, a place where you surrender your power and your agency to outside forces. It feels safe at first because it absolves you of responsibility, but in reality, it's the most powerless position you can be in. By casting yourself as a victim, you put yourself in a cage built of blame and helplessness, and you hand the keys to your happiness to everyone else. You become a passenger in your own life, watching from the window as others drive by. This isn't about ignoring hardship. It's not about pretending bad things don't happen. They do. We all face immense challenges that are genuinely not our fault. But the moment we get stuck in the story of what happened to us, we lose all ability to move forward. We get so consumed by the injustice of it all that we forget we have the power to create a new narrative. The cost of this mental trap is immeasurable. It drains your motivation, poisons your relationships, and slowly, surely, erodes your self-worth. It turns you into a person who waits for a savior, who expects a rescue, who believes that their life will only improve when something outside of them finally changes. You're waiting for an apology, a raise, a new relationship, a lucky break. Anything to prove that your suffering wasn't in vain. But what if you could bypass the wait? What if you could stop searching for a change in the world and instead find a way to change the way you see the world? What if I told you that the entire narrative, the one where you're powerless and the world is against you, could be rewritten in a single, quiet moment of clarity? What if I told you that there's a simple, profound question that can help you see your situation from a completely new angle, breaking the chains of the victim mindset in an instant? This isn't some new age platitude or a feel-good phrase you'll forget 5 minutes from now. It's a powerful tool that forces your brain to shift from a passive state of reaction to an active state of creation. It's an internal question that puts the key to your emotional freedom back in your hand. This question is the secret to moving from a state of frustration and helplessness to a place of agency and forward motion. It doesn't change your circumstances, but it fundamentally changes your relationship with them. So, if you're ready to stop waiting for life to get better and start making it better yourself, stick around. We're about to explore the one question that can change everything. By the end of this video, you won't just know the question. You'll have the power to wield it and transform your perspective whenever you need it most. And while you're at it, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on what's next. Let's get even more specific about what this trap looks like in our day-to-day lives. Think about a time you felt truly, completely stuck. For many of us, the first thing that comes to mind is work. Maybe you poured your heart and soul into a project, only to have a colleague get the credit, or you felt you were ready for that promotion, but it went to someone else. In that moment, the narrative is crystal clear. My boss is blind to my talent, or the system is rigged. You feel a sense of burning injustice, a deep-seated frustration that you can't control the outcome. You might spend days, even weeks, replaying the scenario, convincing yourself that your hard work was unappreciated and that the company is simply unfair. You've become a victim of circumstances, and as a result, your energy is completely consumed by a past event. That emotional drain keeps you from seeing the present, let alone planning for the future. Or consider a more personal situation. A relationship ends unexpectedly, and your world shatters. The pain is real, and the heartbreak is raw. It's so easy to fall into the story that you were betrayed, that they lied to you, or that you were simply not enough. The victim mindset here is a siren song of self-pity, and it sounds like, how could they do this to me? I gave them everything. I'll never trust anyone again. It's a completely understandable reaction, but it's one that puts all of your power in the hands of the other person. You are waiting for them to apologize, to regret their decision, or for a new person to come along and validate your worth. In this space, your healing is contingent on someone else's actions, and your happiness is held hostage by a story that serves no one. Now, let's look at something a little more subtle, but just as damaging. The feeling that you're simply not achieving your goals. Maybe you've always wanted to learn a new language, start a side business, or write a book. But every time you think about it, you're hit with a wave of excuses. I don't have enough time. I'm too busy with my kids. I'm just not the kind of person who can do that. In this case, you're not a victim of a boss or an ex-partner. You're a victim of your own perceived limitations. The feeling of being stuck here is a quiet surrender. You tell yourself that the goal is unattainable, so you don't even try. You've given away your power to an imagined lack of time or ability, and the result is a life of unfulfilled potential. What all of these scenarios have in common is a single toxic thought pattern. We see the brick wall, and we start to ask, why is this happening to me? It feels like a genuine question, but it's not. It's a dead-end question. It's an inquiry that can never provide a useful answer, only more blame. It's a question that keeps you focused on the past and on what's outside of your control. We get so consumed with the injustice of what we've lost, the promotion, the relationship, the potential, that we forget to look for what we can still gain. We are so busy staring at the closed door that we miss the thousands of windows that have opened all around us. This is the cost of the victim mindset. It robs you of your energy, your creativity, and your ability to act. It turns you into a passenger in your own life, waiting for a savior, a rescuer, or a lucky break. But what if you could change the question? What if you could stop asking why and start asking how? The truth is, the single most powerful shift you can make is to stop focusing on what you've lost and instead focus on what you've been given. The question we're about to reveal forces you to do just that. It's simple, but it's not easy. And it's the only tool you'll ever need to break out of that trap. So you've hit a wall. You're feeling stuck, frustrated. And the story you're telling yourself is that life is a series of unfortunate events happening to you. You've been asking that dead-end question, why is this happening to me? And all it's done is keep you trapped. What you need is not a different situation, but a different question. You need a tool to instantly shift your focus from what you've lost to what you can gain. You need a single, powerful lens that can reframe any negative event into an opportunity for growth and action. It's time to reveal that question. The one question that can change everything is this: what is the most generous interpretation of this situation? Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds like denial. You're telling me to be naive. That's just toxic positivity. But I promise you it's none of those things. The power of this question isn't in pretending that bad things don't happen. It's in the word generous. A generous interpretation isn't one that ignores reality. It's one that leaves you with the most agency. It's the interpretation that gives you the most power to act. Think of it like this. An ungenerous interpretation is a story that puts all of the power in someone else's hands. It's a story that says, my boss is a monster, so I have no choice but to be miserable. That story leaves you powerless. A generous interpretation, on the other hand, is a story that gives you a path forward. It's a story that says, my boss is dealing with a lot of pressure, and while their reaction was unfair, this situation has highlighted a skill gap that I can now fill. See the difference? One leaves you trapped, the other leaves you empowered. This question works because it forces your brain to do something it's not used to. The victim mindset is lazy. It takes the first, easiest story it can find, the one where you're a victim, and sticks with it. The most generous interpretation requires you to be a detective for your own well-being. It asks you to search for the most empowering narrative possible. Maybe you lost that promotion. The ungenerous interpretation is that the company is unfair. The generous interpretation could be that the other candidate was a better fit for a reason you don't yet see, and that this is an opportunity for you to seek out a new role that is better aligned with your long-term goals. Maybe a relationship ended. The ungenerous interpretation is that your ex is a terrible person. The generous interpretation is that this was a necessary and mutual parting of ways that will lead both of you to a place of greater happiness and personal growth. This is not a quick fix. This is a practice. You won't get a magical answer every time, but every single time you ask this question, you move from a state of passive reaction to one of active creation. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and you start asking, "What can I do now?" This question gives you a way to find purpose and meaning in the chaos, to stop waiting for someone else to change, and to start taking steps forward yourself. This is how you take back your power and reclaim your story, one generous interpretation at a time. Think about a few moments where you felt victimized. Losing your job unexpectedly, grappling with the sting of a relationship ending, or procrastinating yet again, stuck in self-doubt. These scenarios seem different on the surface, but they share a common thread, a sense of powerlessness. When you slip into the victim mindset, it's easy to blame others or yourself endlessly, recycling the same frustrating stories. This mindset drains your energy like a slow leak in a tire. It saps motivation, clouds your judgment, and often leads to inaction. Nothing changes because your internal narrative convinces you the problem is outside your control. Now, here's where the promise of the generous interpretation question comes in. It invites you to pause, take a step back, and ask yourself, what's the most empowering way to see this? This single shift can start a cascade of change. To see how this question works in practice, let's explore 3 core areas where it can unlock transformation. Imagine you've just been passed over for that promotion you wanted. The ungenerous story might sound like, "My boss doesn't appreciate me. They played favorites." That leaves you stuck feeling resentful and helpless. But the generous interpretation asks you to investigate. What can I learn from this? Is there a skill or experience I'm missing? Is this a chance to seek out new opportunities more aligned with my values? Instead of blaming, you take ownership of your growth path. After a breakup or conflict, it's tempting to say, "They hurt me. They don't care." This perspective traps you in pain and blame. The generous interpretation could be, maybe this parting reflects a deeper mismatch that's actually beneficial for both of us in the long run. This way, you allow space for healing and personal growth rather than resentment. When procrastination or self-doubt creeps in, the unhelpful story might be, "I'm lazy," or "I'll never get this done." The generous question flips this script. What is one small, manageable step I can take right now? What would compassionate support for myself look like? This reframes the challenge into a series of actionable confidence-building moves. At its heart, the generous interpretation moves you from passivity to agency. Instead of getting stuck in the loop of, "Why is this happening to me?" which often feels circular and hopeless, you start asking, "How can I use this situation to grow, learn, or take control?" This is a profound transformation. It changes you from a passive recipient of life's events into an active creator of your story. By practicing this lens consistently, over time it becomes your default setting. Every setback, disappointment, or challenge turns into a question to explore, an opportunity to respond rather than react. Recap this powerful question. What is the most generous interpretation of this situation? This question is your tool for instant reframing. It doesn't deny hardship, but offers a way to reclaim your power in moments when you might otherwise feel stuck. Here's a challenge. The next time you encounter a frustrating or painful situation, pause and ask yourself this question. Notice how your mind responds. What new perspective emerges? How does it influence your next step? I invite you to share your current, stuck situation and the most generous interpretation you find in the comments. Your insight might inspire someone else to take their first step toward empowerment. Remember, reclaiming your story begins with this one generous question. One habit, one shift, one moment at a time.